We're at 10:02, so why don't we dive in, or at least just to start with a little bit of housekeeping. First and foremost, I guess I want to just say thank you to everybody who called in. Thanks for joining our webinar on first class incident management. My name's Aaron Lober. I'm going to be your host today. I'll be introducing my compatriots in a moment, but the first thing I want to say is just some brief housekeeping. We're going to be sharing a lot of interesting stuff with you, which I'm sure you're going to have some questions on. So feel free to use the chat or the Q&A. We're really going to be trying to reserve answering questions until the end of our time together. We do have about 10 minutes carved out for Q&A at the end, so have no fear. I'm sure we'll have your questions answered by the end. But with that, I just want to say again, this is going to be like a really interesting, illuminating session. Many, if not all of you, are responsible for designing and experimenting with different policies, implementing different tools, essentially improving your company's system of developing and operating product. And we recognize that creates a lot of pressure on you to continuously improve, especially during a semi-uncertain time in our economy that it looks like we're unfortunately sliding into. And creating great customer experiences is a really phenomenal way to insulate your business from any type of downturn. And we believe that first-class incident management is a really important component of doing that. So we'll be discussing that at length, as well as showing you how Blameless can help your team resolve incidents lightning fast while learning something new and important about your product and process every time one occurs. But before we go into that in earnest, I want to again introduce myself. My name is Aaron Lober. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Blameless, and I'm going to be your host for this afternoon. We're going to be covering a lot of ground today. And as I said, I'm sure you all have questions. So please don't fear putting them in the chat. We're going to be addressing everything during a Q&A at the end. But the chat is your best way to get those questions injected. Now, to help me along today, I've brought two other members of the Blameless team, a couple of other veterans with me, and I want to introduce each of them. So first, we have Nicolas Philippe, our Director of Product. Nick, thank you so much for doing this. You've really been at the center of our work in building Blameless and integrating it with solutions like ServiceNow. So anything in particular you want to tease for our guests before we dive in?
Yeah, no, thank you for the intro. I'm very excited about the opportunity to share our development around the integration with ServiceNow. This is something that was on my to-do list since I joined Blameless a year and a half ago. The demand was obvious. The more customers I was talking to, the more I discovered that ServiceNow was a very critical, important platform for them to work from. And they have been struggling, though, running incident management. And that's kind of what we're here for, to talk about how we can help them get over that hurdle. So, yeah, I'm very excited about telling you more about it. But first, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, well said. I think this is going to truthfully turn out quite valuable for folks who are working their way through, more classic ITIL solutions like ServiceNow, or leaning into those to do incident management. But before we give away too much, I also want to introduce Nick Mason, our Senior Solutions Engineer. Nick, you spend really more time navigating Blameless and working in Blameless than almost anyone I know. So how excited should our guests be for these new capabilities that we're bringing to the table?
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Aaron. Pleasure to see you all today. Really looking forward to this conversation. And yeah, as a solutions engineer, I'm talking with prospects on a daily basis, leading through initial demos, through proof of concepts, all the way into production. And ServiceNow is definitely one of those tools that I've heard over and over and over again as part of their incident management process. So super excited that we have this here to show you all today, and definitely feel blessed to be able to do the live demo portion of today's webinar. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for holding the reins of that. Well, so as we then get into our conversation in earnest, I want to do a little bit of priming and a little bit of table setting. So we've got a poll just to take the pulse of the room. So we're going to throw that up in just a second. But here's the first question we're really interested in. How important is reliability to your organization? Very interested to see how these results come in, and we'll give it about 10 more seconds, and then I think we can share the results. Okay, I see. Well, I can see a growing consensus here for sure. Well, that's phenomenal. Yeah. So no big surprise here, or at least I hope no major surprise for anybody. But nearly 100% of folks on this call acknowledge that reliability is either important or of critical importance. And I think philosophically, that really tracks for people who have built a career in DevOps, SRE, or are close to the operations of products. There's sort of this adage that exists in software, that reliable products equal happy customers. Now, I say this because I want to anchor this idea right up front, right? I know the state of the economy and the potential for continued growth is sort of on everyone's mind in the tech sector at this moment, which is why I offer this up. The best way to ensure that your company is successful is to create happy, loyal customers. And really the easiest way to create happy customers is through creating reliable, performant products. Now, I hope I don't get too many eye rolls for voicing something that fundamental. But the truth is, reliability often matters more than breadth of features for customers. So take as an example, Netflix. It may have all of my favorite cooking shows, but if I can't get the user interface to load, I'm taking my business to Amazon Prime. Sorry, I hope you'll forgive the bad joke, but those jokes aside, I think I'm preaching to the choir a little bit when I say that developing functional and performant products and then operating those effectively is a key to business success. And unfortunately, that's often easier said than done. By the way, grant me for a moment that what ultimately matters, is your end users or your customers' experience. That's your shared goal, right? As an engineering and an ops team. However, the day-to-day grind associated with achieving that goal can be overwhelming under the best circumstances, right? Triaging, handling bug fixes, even just fine-tuning performance. Now, much of that, much of the pain or the overload there comes from microservices complexity. So that said, also, you're likely today deploying at a much faster pace than you were expected to in the past. And you have a lot of tools that you're already relying on for things like monitoring, APM, logs. So it's really hard, right, to keep up, especially if you're following manual processes or you're utilizing ITIL solutions that aren't really well suited to dealing with the complexity of that microservices architecture. And there are a lot of barriers to successfully operating, I should say operating and building reliable products. But incident management doesn't have to be one of them. Incident management can be an incredibly powerful tool if you apply it in the right way. The important thing is to really approach incidents as a valuable learning opportunity in and of themselves, not just business risks that need to be addressed quickly and effectively, which of course they do. But this really, truthfully, is where Blameless comes in. This is where it sort of separates itself. One of the first use cases that we address immediately for customers is incident response and management. And we orchestrate their entire process end to end, from the moment alerts come in to acknowledging and starting the incident, right inside Slack or Microsoft Teams, I should add, all with Blameless running in the background. And without the right process and tooling, incident management can certainly be a bit chaotic and disorganized. Blameless, on the other hand, can serve as a simple, centralized solution for helping your team define and iterate on your incident management process. It can help streamline the early incident response, identifying the right stakeholders, managing communications, automating runbooks, doing all of that, by the way, through your chat app of choice, be that Slack, Teams, you name it. Then tracking and surfacing up progress or performance to the right stakeholders. So ultimately, everyone stays informed, yes, and you can start to take a real learning approach to every incident. And then we integrate everything back into your other systems that you use to either build or operate products, all your systems of record, if you will. So follow-up actions, retrospective data, essentially everything your team needs to preserve lives on in your other core systems and is put there automatically through the use of Blameless. So this is a more adaptive approach to incident management. And ultimately, it's an approach that helps you get more out of every incident. Not only creating swift resolutions, as I said earlier, which of course is an important component of any incident management system, but really helping you go further in identifying the hotspots in your product or your process that could benefit most from further investment. Okay, so that feels like enough preamble from me. I'm going to hand things over to Nicolas in a moment, but before I do that, I just want to pull up our second poll question to take the pulse of the room here. So if I may, this is question number 2, and we'll get this up in just one second. But I'm curious how many of you agree or disagree, or to what degree you agree with the statement, my organization is maximizing the value of incidents. I will give that just a couple of seconds. Now, I'm expecting this one to be a bit more mixed. Not quite so easy as agreement on reliability being important, certainly. Now, this is a tough one, too, because there's a lot that you can take from any given incident. And of course, it requires you to approach incident management in a very specific way. Very interesting, right? So really just a little over half, or almost half of you would acknowledge or feel like you're not maximizing the value of incidents. I think that's a really good recognition. And I think it's one that is sort of a location or a foundation from which to build. I think that's certainly our feeling about incident management, and I think that approach can really benefit many. So with that, I'm going to now hand things over to Nicolas. Nicolas, to let you talk a little bit about the technical integration itself.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Very nice intro. Really gives a kind of a nice lead into the why Blameless is working closely with ServiceNow to make this happen. But before I give the floor to Nick for an in-depth demo, I wanted to kind of give you the context here of what we're talking about. To make this integration work with ServiceNow and between ServiceNow and Blameless, what ServiceNow offers to partners like us is the ability to build an application effectively, it's like a plugin that you install on your ServiceNow instance. And this application is now officially built and certified by ServiceNow, and you can download it on your install it on your ServiceNow instance, and set it up so that with your Blameless instance, such that it can integrate and flow the information between those two systems very seamlessly. So that's a very powerful component needed to have a powerful, well-integrated solution that that now you can extract with this Blameless app that is a prerequisite to make it work. So today you can look it up, and I would invite you eventually to go into the installation guide, which is in the supporting links and docs for those who have already a Blameless instance. What I want to show you next in the next slide is what are the use cases we're talking about. Actually, Aaron gave you a good sense of that, right? From the beginning of starting running the incident all the way to the retrospective, and that's what we come in with Blameless and integrated with ServiceNow, is this auto and capture, extensive and automatic capture of information and data in one place through the whole life cycle of the incidents, right? And really what we're trying to give you here is a way to guide users through the incidents. Incidents don't pop up every day, hopefully not every hour. But once you bring your team and you're trying to first identify who should be working on this, this is what Blameless helps you to do. So we'll give you an intro. Nick will give you a sense of what you can do as a whole with Blameless and with some very important features. But working in Slack and Teams is where your users will collaborate around the incidents. It's not actually through the UI or ServiceNow necessarily. This is a great place where people can chat and identify issues, investigate the incidents. And with the Blameless bot that runs in Slack or Teams, you can guide your users on the process of collecting, investigating, all this. So this is where the synergy comes really into play very nicely between Blameless and ServiceNow, where this information can eventually flow into ServiceNow. So that's going to be the essence of what we're going to show you. Follow-up actions is a very key part also to track what next, what needs to happen above and beyond the incidents to rectify your environment and do the learning. So what's going to be the focus of this demo will be around the auto creation of incident tickets in both directions. So the data now can be flowing in a bi-directional way, thanks to this Blameless app that you download from the ServiceNow App Store. And there are key fields that are kept in synchronization, such as the short description, the description field, the service as well, which is pulled from the ServiceNow service catalog, while you're working in Blameless in Slack or Teams, which is very convenient. Then the state and the party are two important concepts in both ServiceNow and Blameless that I will expand on right after this. And the work note is also something that we leverage to capture information that you are typing and entering in Slack and sharing with your users, and along the way, all the way to the ServiceNow as a work note. So what I want to dive into, which is very important as part of the workflow that we automate for users in the next slide, is how if you're familiar with ServiceNow, in ServiceNow, the incident state is slightly different than the model in Blameless. They are in progress, canceled, or resolved. There's really two states that are important: in progress and resolved. But in progress doesn't give enough of a sense of what needs to happen next. where you're at in the resolution process from the beginning to the end. So that's why in Blameless, we've had for a long time those key states, such as investigating, identified, monitoring, all the way to resolved, and that we synchronize seamlessly between the two in either direction. So with that, I'd like to give the floor to Nick to give you an actual overview of, actually detailed view of what this integration is about.
All righty.
Well, yeah, Nick, let me hand the screen to you and you can take us away.
Yep. Thank you so much, Aaron. The moment everyone's been waiting for. Let me go ahead and get my screen going here. How's it looking on our side? Everyone can see.
Beautiful.
Perfect. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Nicolas, for that nice overview of our ServiceNow capabilities. We're going to spend this portion of today's conversation going deeper into some of the topics that Nicolas talked about today, as well as showing you a live demo of these in action. So I know based on some previous conversations that I've had with some of you out there over the past couple of weeks, there are some familiar faces out there. Great to see you all. For those who I don't know, looking forward to getting to know you in the future. But a little table setting here, and the reason I bring that up is we're going to start by really going over incident management using Blameless as a whole. We're not going to go into a proper deep dive of everything you could do within the product, but we're going to start an incident using Blameless, in this case through Slack. For you out there who may be thinking, oh, I don't use Slack, I use Microsoft Teams, don't worry, we got you covered there as well. You could think of a very parallel process in terms of what you're seeing here today. From there, we're going to get into, how does ServiceNow actually fit in with incident management using Blameless? So once I've created an incident, something's triggered an incident for Blameless to get kickstarted, where does ServiceNow come into play? That's going to get into those fields that Nicolas showed you on the screen, the bidirectionality, making sure that everybody, no matter where you're working, is getting the most relative information when it comes to managing that incident. The priority should be solving the problem, and you don't want to go searching for that information. So we're going to get you covered there. And then finally, we're going to wrap things up with kind of doing the inverse, right? We've talked about starting an incident right here through Slack or starting an incident through the Blameless UI, but we also recognize that maybe there's an existing ticket out there from ServiceNow, or maybe you create a new ticket, or you have a team that's working specifically out of ServiceNow and they're going to create a new ticket there. How do I then get that information to Blameless? How do I then kick off an incident with Blameless from that ticket? We're going to make sure that we have both of those kind of methods of getting an incident kickstarted covered for this demo. So without further ado, I'm looking forward to getting into it. We're going to start here within Slack and go over a couple different ways that we can get started by creating an incident with Blameless. Couple different methods. We won't go too deep into them, but we have kind of the proactive ways, right, of kind of monitoring different services on the back end. Maybe you're using some sort of alerting system like PagerDuty and services are going off. That could automatically trigger a Blameless incident to start. Maybe you're using something like Datadog or New Relic to monitor critical services for some sort of user journey, right? You're monitoring those. We have a built-in SLO portal that if something dips below a certain error budget, that could also automatically trigger a Blameless incident. So keep those in mind. We're happy to go more in depth into those in a separate conversation. But for today's demo, we're going to focus here in Slack. This is where you and the team are working out of on a daily basis. I always say, why leave your chat app if you don't have to, right? So we're going to spend a majority of our time in here, but we're also going to be toggling between the Blameless UI. This is kind of your parallel path in terms of creating incidents when it comes to Blameless. You'll see the big blue button up here in the top to create an incident. But then we'll also spend some time here within ServiceNow taking an in-depth look into those fields and seeing the bidirectionality. So without further ado, we're going to start here. We have an incidents channel. These could be public or private channels. In order to get started, all you have to do is run the /blameless command within one of those channels. Series of buttons will pop up and will allow you to get started. So for this case, we will go ahead and we'll start an incident. Modal will pop up where we need to gather some key information. So basically, what is the problem that you are facing, right? So the incident type and severity are going to help us judge, who needs to be pulled in automatically to help you solve this problem. What is this actual problem? Is it use case based? Maybe it's a customer incident, security incident. Is it a planned outage? Something along those lines, right? Maybe this is specifically needing to automatically pull in specific teams that you may have set up. That's where the incident type can come in. All of the different methods of sending out communications, bringing in the right people, the playbooks associated with starting an incident can be customized depending on the type and the severity. So for example, if I say that I want a customer incident Sev0, a Sev0 incident can have a completely different grouping of people brought in versus a Sev3. Same thing with the playbooks. Maybe Sev3 is a little bit more lightweight because it's a lesser priority versus a Sev0. You can customize that using Blameless. So I know some of you out there are currently doing this. This is kind of old news to you, but I want to make sure that we focus on these kind of core aspects of how you start an incident. The first thing that's directly related to ServiceNow is this is that service catalog mapping that Nicolas discussed in his portion of today's presentation. This is going to be directly tying into the CMDB within ServiceNow. So this is great if you say, hey, okay, I'm collecting all of my different services within ServiceNow. I have information in there on kind of who I need to contact, what to do if this service is impacted, along with an assortment of other information. We're going to automatically tie this to the incident that we're just creating. We'll finish this off by saying email gateway is down. No one can send emails, just to get a little bit more information so that we could label this. When we go ahead and we start the incident, what Blameless is going to be doing kind of behind the scenes here is gathering the right people, as I mentioned, notifying the right channels and getting those playbooks together, as well as performing some of the automated components that come with incident management, right? So step one is understanding, what the problem is. The Slack card will be a recurring theme that you'll see over and over again. I've often heard that, customers before Blameless, some of their employees take 10 to 15 minutes just to get caught up to speed on what's going on. That's way too much time, right? You want to immediately get into the incident and start troubleshooting and driving towards resolution. So this Slack card is going to appear over and over again as a way of getting that information sent out. But you'll also see here that a dedicated Slack channel was created. Most importantly for our conversation today, that ServiceNow ticket has automatically been created. We've created an incident record within ServiceNow and mapped it back to Blameless. A Zoom bridge has been created, as well as you can see Jira here as well. So the idea here behind Jira is that although we are focusing within ServiceNow through conversations that I've had with different prospects, there's also been a pattern of, okay, ServiceNow is going to be our main incident record within our ticketing system, but engineering teams are using Jira in order to hold accountability when it comes to follow-up actions. The whole concept of as you're trying to troubleshoot and solve one problem, 3 more problems occur, right? So Jira in this case is going to be that central repository for our follow-up tickets. So we've created that parent ticket there so that all the follow-up tickets can be placed underneath that. But we'll focus here on ServiceNow. The last piece before we get into actually taking a look at the ticket itself is I mentioned those communications, right? So this was a customer incident, Sev0. In this case, I needed to let my executive channel know and my customer success channel know that something is happening. They're going to get proactive updates as we move through the incident. And as I mentioned before, here's that card. It's going to be popping up for you. These are going to be dynamic in nature. So as you move the incident forward, as you change the severity, as you invite more people in, this card is going to be updated in those channels. So it'll be notified automatically. Moving into the dedicated incident channel now, we will see that this card is put at the top again, pinned so that we have that information at the tip of our fingertips so that we know how we need to get started. Let's go ahead now and we will click into the ServiceNow ticket. This incident record was automatically created when I created the incident within Blameless. So as you can see, this is the number that was created. We have our email service from the CMDB that was automatically added. The short description is the title from that Slack modal. The description is the description. That one's pretty simple. As well as the priority was set as Sev0, a combination of impact and urgency. So everything from that initial modal has been added here. You can see within the work notes as well, we're going to be keeping track of status updates, any kind of high level information that is critical for users to know about this particular incident. And then down here at the bottom, you'll see, hey, I have a link right to the incident within Blameless UI, what the current status is, the severity, as well as that current incident type. that I set when I created the incident. So you can kind of start to see that this information is going to be mirroring within Blameless. When I come into Blameless now and I take a look and refresh the page here, what you'll see is that email gateway is down. This is the incident that we just created. You'll see that, again, some of the information from here is going to be mirroring between Slack, ServiceNow, and the UI. The idea there is that different teams are going to be working in different areas. In an ideal world, we'd all be working out of Slack. We'd all be talking in there, and that's where we'd be solving our problems. But that's not the reality based on how incidents are run today. So we want to make sure that this information is updated in all locations. So again, your war room is added in here, kind of your high-level information. Blameless also creates a retrospective for you automatically, but that's a conversation for another day. The timeline is also going to be created for you here as well. You can also see that we have a link to that impacted service. Right now, you can see that it's email. I can click into there. I can get some information directly from the CMDB within ServiceNow. So all of that information, as you can see, is transferred between all these different locations. Coming back into Slack, one really important concept within Blameless is the idea of roles and tasks, right? So one thing that I've often heard from prospects before they use Blameless is that there's a concept of, noise or too many people coming into the incident room, right? So roles and these tasks put into these playbook styles allow you to really hold accountability and make sure that the incident is moving forward. So in this case here, you can see assigned communications lead role is my first task. I can go ahead and use the drop down here where I can go ahead and assign that communications lead role. I'll go ahead and assign it to my friend Nicolas here since he is on the call with us. And what you'll notice is that Nicolas will now be added as the communications lead. He's been automatically now added to the channel. I can go ahead and start checking off my tasks and we can move forward with this. In order to do anything with Blameless, you could run the /blameless command, or we also have shorthand notations. So for example, /blameless status. Here, we will move this into the identified stage. You can see we have the green check mark saying we're good to go. We have our next set of tasks. The reason for me moving this forward, one, I think it's great to kind of point out why we have roles and tasks, because as you're evolving your incident management from where it may be today, this concept of having commanders who are in charge of moving the incident forward and making sure everyone is kind of doing the tasks that they have, or a dedicated communications lead to make sure that if communication is not already automated, those stakeholders get the right forms of communication when they need to, is really important to make sure that everything is kind of filled in and there's no cracks. But coming back to ServiceNow, the reason I wanted to showcase this is that, as I mentioned, we're going to be adding this information kind of as we move forward to the incident itself. So keep that in mind as we're moving forward. When it comes to actually changing some of the information within Blameless from Slack, ServiceNow, and the UI, we showed in the slides that this is all bi-directional. So for example, if I wanted to come in here to my ticket, or if I wanted to come in here to Blameless, this is related to incident ending in 215. We have our 215 here. I can come in here and say, okay, maybe I wanted to change, it's not an email service, it's really our retail service, right? And I wanted to change, I will change the short description. I'll wait on that. We'll go ahead and we'll say updating some information. We will go ahead and press save here. And what I wanted to come down here to the work notes is, yes, you could see here the communications lead has been added here as well. So anytime you add a role into from Slack or in Blameless, it'll also show who that person is assigned to within ServiceNow itself. So since we've added that retail gateway here now, you can see that Blameless also updates it as well. That will be added from the title. We can come in here and we could change the description. Looks like we are having more of a retail problem. I can go ahead and save this information in here. And the same thing, it'll update the information in here within ServiceNow. The idea of, again, updating the priority is going to be a combination of impact and urgency. So one of two things that you can do, you could either change the impact and the urgency to create a priority within ServiceNow, I can also do the exact same thing here within Blameless. I could change this to a Sev3 as an example. And what that's going to do is it's going to take that combination of impact and urgency. And based on kind of how you have it set up within your Blameless settings within ServiceNow, it's going to automatically impact the priority within this particular issue. So as you've seen now, you can come in here. You could also run /blameless, title as an example. If I wanted to come in here and update the title of the incident, you could run /blameless at any point in time to get a comprehensive list of all of the different aspects that you can do. So if I wanted to set the incident status, if I wanted to change, who's the assignee of a role, if I want to change the description or the severity, you could all do so from here as well, which will go and impact the UI and the ticket. One area that I really want to focus on is this concept of this is a communication tool. Slack is a communication tool. You're going to be talking to each other, the people who are in this channel, to try and solve this problem. So, I'm looking into this. Looks to have happened at 1 a.m. Maybe this is a retail issue. And for me, it's getting close to lunchtime. So looking to get some ramen for lunch because I am getting hungry. But the reason why I'm adding this is not because this is important in solving our problem, but we recognize that not all communication is equal when it comes to adding this information to your incident timeline, right? That's one of the most manual areas of incident management today, is making sure that you're able to come in here and sift through this information and add it to your incident timeline. Typically how that's done manually today is that, there's someone that's in charge of just copying and pasting into some Google Doc somewhere. We don't want that. So what we do here is we have a timeline from the moment the incident is created all the way through. As you can see, I added a note into our ServiceNow work notes. That's going to automatically be added here. I'm going to do the exact same thing here within Blameless. I could use one of several different emojis in order to capture this information. So for example, I'll use the push pin. You could see it's already been added in here. The green check in the notebook let you know that everything has been captured. I could add this one in here as well. I'll use the star. Okay, let me go in, and maybe ramen is super important because Aaron wants to know what type of ramen I'm having. Maybe it's important. I'll add it in there. The idea here is pin as you go. And after the fact, if you need to come back and take something off, it's as simple as coming and unpinning that. It's going to be removed from your timeline. And again, this information here is going to be added to the ServiceNow work notes as well. So as you can see here, this information is going to be added for you. The last thing that I'll note here is I forgot to mention earlier, I changed it from email to retail. You could see that the retail impacted service has been added here within Blameless from ServiceNow. So again, making sure that as I'm moving through this incident and we need to change service impacted, you could pin that to the timeline. You can come into ServiceNow. You could change that to make sure that you have that link available to you at your earliest convenience so that no stones are left unturned. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and complete my last set of tasks here. We also mentioned that the whole concept of follow-up actions is something that you may be experiencing today. This is where that Jira integration kind of works in tandem with Blameless and ServiceNow. So being able to come in here and say, need to follow up with CS, and who do I want to assign this to? By default, when you set Jira up within Blameless, you could choose which project you want it to go to. But if you need to select like a specific engineering project, kind of ad hoc, you have the ability to do so as well. Set the priority. We'll come in and we'll submit that follow-up task. The idea here is that, again, all information is going to live under one umbrella. So when I come and I refresh the environment here within Blameless, your follow-up tasks are going to be added here as well. Your incident record still within ServiceNow is pinned up here at the top. Again, central repository of anything incident management. This is useful for if you have to do some sort of audit, everything is in one location. If you have to do something in terms of reporting, again, all of this information that we're gathering from the status change, how long we're in these incidents, any tags we may be adding, these follow-up actions, they're all reportable within a product that we have within the Blameless umbrella called Reliability Insights. So keep that in mind. If that's something that interests you, we can go ahead and do a deep dive further conversation. But finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and resolve the incident. You can see that I have one last section here of information that was sent to me. This is another area that we call comms flow, basically allowing you to automate those forms of kind of internal and external communication as different facets of the incident change or stay the same. You'll also notice that those channels that I showed you in the beginning, they're getting those constant updates because that was something that we had pre-configured. But without further ado, I'm going to move it back over now that we kind of have showcased all this information. We can see now that it's been moved from in progress to resolved. We're going to go and say kind of the inverse of what you've seen today so far. So I created an incident from Blameless. We want to have a ticket here within ServiceNow. I'll say, here's my caller. Let me find a particular, I'll say that it's the BlackBerry service that we're using. We will say BlackBerry service is down. This is from ServiceNow to Blameless. We'll go ahead, we'll leave that for the priority. We'll add a work notes starting. I'll just say this needs an incident to be created in Blameless, right? And we'll go ahead and submit this issue. If we come back to our main section here within ServiceNow, you'll see that BlackBerry service is down. We'll click into this particular incident record, and you'll notice a button up here at the top, Enable Blameless Sync. If we come back into the incident that we automatically created when we started the incident, you'll see that Disable Blameless Sync is up there. So that's the difference, right? When you start it from Blameless, it's going to automatically create the sync between Blameless and ServiceNow. But for example, I've created this ticket a while ago, and this is linked now to something that I'm noticing is happening. I can come in here and say, okay, we need to have all hands on deck. Let me go ahead and enable the Blameless Sync. You'll get a message here up at the top noting that, okay, don't worry, the integration is now enabled. This information is going to automatically be captured. You could see here that we automatically have that link to Blameless itself. When I come back into Blameless, the incident record will show up. You can see there's that BlackBerry service is down. And then everything that I just showed you as part of today's demo is going to be kind of incorporated, and make sure that you have all of the right people getting the right information, the right playbooks in place, and make sure that, you know, all your ducks are in a row. So that will conclude my live demo of today's presentation. I want to just thank everybody for coming and hearing me out. And this is something that definitely I'm super passionate about, and it's super exciting to see that this is here for us. I wanted to also just point out again that within the ServiceNow store today, we are certified within their app store. If you are a Blameless customer today, you have an environment, you have the ability to come in here and download the integration. If this is something that you are interested in, you haven't spoken with us prior to today's conversation, looking forward to having those conversations with you. And I'll hand it now back over to you, Aaron, to kind of close us off.
Yeah, Nick, thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for walking us through the tool. I'm always amazed sort of at the multifaceted capabilities that are tucked within Blameless. This last little moment before we move into Q&A, we just have here because we wanted to create an opportunity for anybody who is interested in taking a deep dive on their particular use case. We're happy to set one up. Feel free to register your interest on the poll here, and we'll make sure to have a member of our team reach out to you at the end of our time together. We're also going to be sharing the recording of this call, so I guess I'll take that opportunity to also say thank you to everybody who showed up and participated. All we really have left to do now is a little bit of Q&A. So this is your opportunity now to register any questions you might have. I'm going to close this poll out, and let's open the floor. Maybe start by looking at anything that may have come through the chat. Let's see here. And Nick or Nicolas, have either of you guys been monitoring, or Crystal, who I know is helping us manage things? Let me know if there's anything we should start with. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Great opening question, by the way. What's the difference between what we're offering here with Blameless and ServiceNow's incident workspace? ServiceNow is a more classic ITIL solution, is endeavoring to do a wider set of things, truthfully, than Blameless. I like managing IT operations broadly. So the agent workspace, you can think of that as ServiceNow's solution to helping, say, internal IT folks respond to a computer that's crashed. On the other hand, Blameless as sort of an adaptive incident management tool is really designed for engineering or DevOps teams first and foremost, with the idea that the incident management workflow for folks who are on call or a team that's responsible for both building and operating a product needs to map really well to the team itself, the process that they want to run. So Blameless is really easily customized and great at both recruiting the right people, the right engineers when something goes wrong from across a pretty complex microservices architecture, and then funneling them through a really efficient, tight incident management or incident response work process. So I'd say that's really the core difference, but great question. Let's see, I want to pose this one, I think probably to Nicolas, because I saw this come through earlier. Actually, maybe it's a better question for Nick itself. How much, Nick, you walked us through a lot of interesting capabilities of, Blameless holistically, but how much configuration is actually needed up front to do some of the things that you were showing us?
Yeah, that's a great question. Everybody wants to know, how can I get started as quickly as possible, right? So within your Blameless environment, it's a simple OAuth 2 authentication into your ServiceNow environment. There's a series of step-by-step instructions that we provide and kind of walk you through if you need help on, in order to make sure that bidirectionality is enforced and enabled, kind of what I showed you in the live demo. And then once you have that kind of add-on that I showed you from the certified ServiceNow store, you'll then, if you type in, like you search within your ServiceNow environment, Blameless, you'll see a couple properties show up where you can come in and configure, maybe I want the combination of impact and urgency, 1 and 3 to equal something that's different than out of the box that what we provide you. You have the ability to come in there, but we're going to get you set up with kind of a standard, method of making sure incidents are created and managed within the incidents section of ServiceNow. That's a great question. Thank you so much.
I just saw this question come through the chat as well. How does this fit alongside the ITIL concept of problem management? It's a nice follow-on actually to the question about the agent workspace. In the ITIL framework, problem management again is a more broad concept, and is really focused on, hey, if something's broken, we need to address it. Now that something may be a computer crashed, it may be in fact like an engineering incident, but the core of ITIL is incident resolution and service restoration first. One great thing about a more adaptive incident management approach like what we're presenting alongside ITIL is that we allow you, or we support our customers to start thinking more seriously about incidents as pieces of value or opportunities to identify problem areas in both product and process. So you can start to not just resolve the incident in front of you, but actually start to reduce the instances of repeat incidences. So that's a big difference, and it makes what we do a great supplement to this ITIL concept of problem management, because ultimately, if your engineering team is spinning its wheels, resolving the same problems over and over again, you quickly begin to experience engineering burnout, and of course the cost of that, the load, and just in terms of resources and the time taken away from building new features. So like the impact to feature velocity is really serious. One of the things anyway that we think really distinguishes what we're doing here. Got another question that I think is probably best addressed to Nicolas. So this is very specific. Can you update or change the combination of impact and urgency for ServiceNow priority in relation to severity definitions within Blameless?
Yes, it's customizable. There is a table that is maintained in ServiceNow. The Blameless administrator or ServiceNow administrator that would set up, install the Blameless app, would have access to this Blameless severity mapping table. And that's where you can do the mapping, customize the mapping between the two. Between an urgency level and impact level on ServiceNow and a Blameless severity. So yeah, it's totally doable.
Excellent. Well, if there are no more questions in the chat or in the Q&A, I'd say we leave it there and we give everybody a few minutes back. I just one more time want to say thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of myself, Nick, and Nicolas, thanks so much for exploring this elevated approach to incident management with us. We hope you found it as valuable as we have to share it. So everybody have a phenomenal day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.